We now return to Ace Attorney Chronicles, turning it around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of Quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with the Nipponese whippersnapper and his uncas refusal to throw in his alley. Throw in his alley.
Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
The jury's contention. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that the woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
Oh, I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Your books, yes, a nice shop that, but bourbon books, no, not worth a visit. With only minor exceptions, the reason for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear.
When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes.
Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. If we want to force the trial to continue... Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their mind. Well, 4 of them at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord. I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. The defense's rebuttal. For pity's sake, the little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he?
Hold it!
Excuse me, but aren't you... Yes, that's right, I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face, or the sight of it anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking around. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. Sorry? I don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Well, you know, water under the bridge. Now there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn back the clock... Well, anyway, I don't know about the hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. And free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it could only have been the victim.
Hold it!
You're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. Clearly that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly that funny little Nipponese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant very much denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. But if that's a lie as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say that goes through your funny little... What goes through your funny little minds? I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare that the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated that there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious? No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple.
Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit.
Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. That went well for her. The man who wouldn't have gone round the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh yes, like you draw on the map, you mean? What was it, Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Right, so why we need his testament? Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so what accent do I have now? I don't know. So the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. Oh, well, yes. Why is all this true? So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I have given a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road way, it'd be different. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. Okay. A reason why Saseki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
Oh shit. Go back. Oh fuck, what are you doing, game? Go back.
Hold it!
The wrong fucking one.
Sorry, fold it, you say? Fold what?
No, what I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often?
I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you say. Same thing every day, including the day you're talking about.
And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question?
Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about.
Just before 5, you say, exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? He's in a green coat, too. He would have been following this dude.
Oh yes, no mistake there, I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had.
What do you mean?
Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. I knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up.
Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road.
That's right. I believe in Cornpipe, you see. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books.
Juror number 6, I must insist that you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant.
Sorry, extremely sick. No, I'm quite all right now.
It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. But I can't help feeling that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree, it's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again, carefully, and if any of their assertions are at odds, I'll pit them mercilessly against another. Yes, don't hold back. Pit them all against each other. Okay. So this man... Woman in green collapsed before. I'm thinking we're going to do that one. Man wouldn't have gone around the houses from the bookshop, not in winter. But the other man did. So the poor woman was attacked from behind. Was she? How dreadful.
Hold it!
And whatever is the matter, young man?
You're the wife of Mr. Garadeb, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room?
The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas? I'm the maid, you understand?
She's keeping up the charade. This is going to be awkward. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean.
Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice.
I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right, although he's only been in a little over a week now.
And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this?
Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort.
What?
Spending all his time in the dark and dingy rooms sporting that unscrupulous mustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something.
Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already, so we know the two who not to call upon, at least.
I really don't care. Can we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes.
Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so's my family's.
Huh?
The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a labourer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids.
Oh, I see. That must be very hard.
I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply lines bursting left, right and centre. They're after cheap labour to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn till dusk, it is.
So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you?
That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from there where it all happened. Why, that old bookshop it was.
What? Another coincidence?
That's right, Meersham Street it was.
Meersham Street. On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please.
What's the point in that? Can't we just get this business over with now?
Please, sir, it's important.
Fine, I'll do it then.
On the day it happened, I was digging up Meersham Street from dawn till dusk. We can now pit him against this one. Man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back, not in winter.
Objection!
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another.
At odds, counsel, explain yourself.
Please don't point.
It wasn't me, I swear. Well, I just want to get this done and dusted.
Well, juror number 3?
Oh, me, sir? What do you mean?
Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of second-hand books, and on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable, which means that the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meerschaum Street and down Briar Road.
Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? He must have had a good 2 yards or more of pavement. We must have had a good 2 yards or more of pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way.
So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings.
Oh, yes, I suppose he must have. Oh, I suppose that must be right, eh?
Juror number 3, you said the following. The man who wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice.
Yes, oh, blimey. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may.
Yes?
I don't think, in all good conscience, that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue, so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir?
Who, me?
Well, all right then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in, that's what I say.
Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if we could just identify one more clue or discrepancy that would make them stop doubting Mr. Natsume, we might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Mr. Van Zeeks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal.
Thank you, counsel. On with the summation examination, please.
Yes, my lord. I have to say not guilty at this point, so I can see where this trial goes from here. Forward is attacked from behind. Whether it's digging up roads or digging up the truth, you've got to see it through to the end, haven't you?
I slipped over that evening myself on Calabash Road. I knocked myself clean out, you know.
We shall pit you against you. Because of the woman in the green coat, it was actually a man in a green coat.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning.
A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel?
Well, juror number 2, juror number 6.
Whatever do you mean, sir?
I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. It's not like I was loud or anything. What? There is at least one fact of which we can be sure here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of second-hand titles. He then returned home on foot.
But the man said he has no recollection of his return journey.
That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes.
Yes, we're all well aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection!
Can we really be sure of that, madam?
Why, whatever do you mean?
I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes was the jolly old gentleman on the end of the bench here with me today? That is entirely possible, yes. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim.
Well, look at that.
My goodness me.
Sorry, you need to pee.
And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Oh my.
You idiot, old man. If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat?
What did you say to me? What you want, mate? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip all over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it?
My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but...
You'd like to change your leading, I presume?
I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
And I would too.
What?
Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well...
Well.
Well, that summation examination is concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The eyes, 2. The nose, 4. So the nose have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection, only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy.
Lord Van Zeeks?
It seems I must retract my earlier remark.
What do you mean?
I mistakenly credited these jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh?
Whatever do you mean? I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth.
Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir? That's right. It took me the whole day and they paid me a measly 2pence for it. Now, my learned Nipponese friend, tell me, do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents?
Well, I'm honest, I don't have a clue, no. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all.
In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Eh? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. And no coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway. And we just turn any gentlefolk back when they come. Kids just jump out right over it all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings
around town. I don't know, dude. Like, I myself would have trouble, I think, doing anything but a running jump over 6 feet. Is that true? Is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. Crushed in a single sentence. And old man...
Cold man, you can talk? You can talk?
Being a cold... Okay, I get it. Yeah. You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time?
I can't say as I remember.
You don't remember? Well, about the wager, my learned friend. You say that it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would say 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it.
Order, order. Lord Van Zix, explain yourself.
My lord?
If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination?
I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. What are you talking about? My lord. The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand.
Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses.
Its next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember, one of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zieks brings to the stand as his witnesses, no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent, and I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. Oh no. We'll deal with this next time.